All right, 11:30 a.m. on Sunday. Still here at Prepper Camp, Saluda, North Carolina. Sitting here with Cameron, right?
That is correct.
I got it. I suck with names.
Only third time, but
Third time's the charm.
yeah. And you're with 3D Creations.
Yes, CD3D Creations.
Yep. So basically, I mean, just jumping right into it. I mean, you're basically right across the way from us. I mean, I guess what brought you to Prepper Camp?
Well, I came last year. Came up with a device for off-grid solar communications, and plus I just enjoy the community. I like prepping. I don't like being caught with my pants down, so to speak. So this is the place to come to learn how not to do that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's basically the way to do it. That's a nice plug line. That's done. We're done. That's the show, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah. No.
So walk us through that off-grid solar.
All right, so it uses what's called LoRa, which is basically an acronym for long range, low power, or maybe vice versa, but that's what the system is set up to do. So you can send text messages in the woods, maybe 2 or 3 miles, but line of sight you're looking at anywhere from 10 to 20. And as far as I know right now, the world record is standing somewhere around 800 miles, but they're using high altitude balloons to send and receive messages.
That's impressive, and I can see a lot of applications, not just in like the prepping community, but also just basic survival. I mean, not being stuck out in the woods with no way to radio for help.
Absolutely. I know a lot of the forestry services use these for temperature monitoring, barometric pressure. I mean, they have all kinds of sensors that you can use that communicate back and forth, so you're not having to send somebody off 10, 20 miles out into the woods. They just sit in their station and get all the information.
Yeah.
Well, what's nice about, like you and I were talking about yesterday, what's nice about like that whole system is it's basically a closed.
Yes.
It's a 100% closed system unless you let somebody in.
That is correct.
So it's protected. So if you were,
it's like a closed mesh network almost.
Absolutely.
So basically, like, I mean, if you had, how many of those do you need? Do you just need 2 to do it, or how many do you need to have a good network going?
Well, you need an interface. So right now we're using you can use a tablet, a phone, your Apple Watch, whatever it is, to connect through an app to the device. But you'll need a transmitter receiver, which both of those are transmitter receivers, to talk back and forth. But we're working on a proprietary system now, so you don't have to use a foreign-made item that might have a GPS tracker on it or some kind of backdoor system.
Okay.
Something more self-contained, all in one.
Absolutely.
I can see that being appealing, especially for privacy advocates too.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking of, I don't know, I mean, you have a disaster of some kind, like the guys at PrepperNet or something. It's like you have a compound or you have a mag, and it's to have nodes around or whatever, a network set up so you guys can talk. Because I mean, ham is great.
It is.
It's efficient, but it's inefficient in privacy, and so that's the downside. Where that, unless you go digital.
Right.
But then again, because it looks like you 3D printed some stuff.
Yes.
For it. So what have you done? What mods have you done with it?
So basically, all of the cases and everything are 3D printed, and they're not waterproof, but they are weatherproof. So you can put these things up for weeks at a time and never have to worry about them not being powered up, because they're all self-contained in their units. But we are trying to develop a proprietary program so that we also get away from the application that we use now, since it's not necessarily ours, but it's open source and anybody else can use it. But I would like to have something that's a little more self-contained as well.
I can understand that. Maybe a technical question, but what frequency range are we talking about here? Because
this is 915, so it's still in the civilian frequency, so you don't have to have any licensing whatsoever.
So it's still within kind of the FRS band then?
Yeah.
Okay. That was what I was thinking as we were talking through this. I'm like, this can't be ham, and I didn't think this was GMRS.
No.
Okay. It's impressive, though, that you're getting that kind of range, because, I mean, FRS is pretty power limited. But like you said, I mean, if you're trying to do, like, a burst transmission of a data package, you're not talking about near the power requirement of the bandwidth that you need for voice.
Right. Well, these don't use a binary signal, so you're not sending ones and zeros in a data packet. You're using a chirp signal, so it uses the pulse width between each chirp to determine the amount of information or what information is being sent.
So if you do drop a pulse, it doesn't booger the entire message or short it. You might just lose a couple of characters.
Right.
Yeah.
But typically you won't have that with a mesh network setup, because if you have a failure with one, it'll bounce to the other and it'll transmit to all of them if you want it to be set up that way. So if you did have a down node, then when it came back online, you would still have a log of all the messages that were sent within the mesh network.
Keep talking. I just had to make sure you weren't muted.
No problem.
Podcaster paranoia.
Understand. But yeah, we're still more or less in the development stages of it, because it's a pretty multifaceted thing, and there's a lot of stuff that can be done with it. But we're working on getting the package out as soon as possible to get people
into it.
Yeah.
So how much? I guess how much, like, for us, like, to get started into it? Like, how much would it cost?
So the bug out pack we have now, which comes with the 2 tablet interface, it comes with 2 send receive nodes, and power banks to charge everything, will start at $1,000. But with the all proprietary stuff, I haven't figured any of that out yet, because there's still a lot of work that needs to be done as far as programming and just range testing is another big thing.
Okay.
Especially through valleys, mountains.
Oh yeah.
Just certain places of interference, like a city where you have large buildings.
Yeah, I mean, it's because in a way it is still limited to line of sight.
Yes.
So with like ham, if you have a lot of trees, you have buildings, all that metal, the cement, all that stuff, it's gonna definitely hinder that distance. So yeah. So but I mean, if you live in an area where you can put an antenna up. Like say you live in an apartment building and you can get permission to put an antenna up on the roof, like that would be really ideal. So there's pros and cons to it, but definitely the biggest pro I could see versus ham is just the privacy, like the privacy of it, like how it's and so no, that's I mean, I know it's more of a newer technology too, right?
Well, it's been around for a while, but it's basically been used for like stationary monitoring.
Okay.
Or if somebody wanted to make a trip alarm at their gate, it would send a signal back and forth and let them like ring a bell or something.
I see. Okay.
But as far as the communications like this, it's still fairly new.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So are there any limitations on like how much you can push in a single transmission based on pulse width, or is that less a factor of frequency and power and more a factor of like just the interface you're using?
There's different settings on there, so you can have a slow, long pulse width, so it's going to take longer for the packet to get delivered, but it has less power delivering over the maximum range. Or you can have a long fast, which it's going to expel a lot more power, but it's going to deliver the packets a lot quicker. And there's a variation of what you can do there. So if you want something fast and short, you can do that as well, and it'll probably take less power than something that's long and slow. And if that makes sense.
And what you're talking about is like power management, because I mean, in the use case, it sounds like we're talking about here. Power's limited, you're man portable, you're bugged out, whatever. So you have to regard the power you have left for your communication device as an asset itself, and it's a diminishing one the more you use it.
Yes.
So you have the ability to kind of tailor, I know I can recharge this thing at the drop of a hat, or I'm plugged into, say, a vehicle, so I've got power on tap.
Right.
Power to the max, blast it out,
Absolutely.
or dial it back, be more efficient.
Correct.
That's smart thinking, though. That gives the flexibility that people need to kind of make this work for their individual system.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, excuse me. So going off of that, the 3D printing and stuff. Let's get into your 3D printing because that's basically like your whole booth is all 3D printing. So, and you have a lot of like statues, but you have lures, you have mags, you have stuff like that.
Yes.
So like the power of the 3D printer, and I know it's still rising. Like I feel like there's the 3D printer technology is continuously, it's always evolving. Like the material that you can print with.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when it first came out, you're really limited on the plastics you can use. Now they have crap where you can actually make your own plastic.
Oh, yeah.
And you can actually use your own, like a lot of your own material if you can make it and get it into the spool. Like, you know, they have that. Like, I mean, I think what now you can print. I mean, well, I was reading on one that they were 3D printing like bricks.
Yes,
for
absolutely.
homes and stuff like that, and like trusses. Like they're 3D printing all this crap now. So like the technology, how did you get into that?
Well, it's, I guess like everybody else, it kind of started off as a hobby. Just I've always been interested in electronics and machinery and all kinds of stuff like that. And I was like, well, I'll give it a shot. And of course, it's like anything else with a learning curve. It takes a little bit of time, and it's frustrating. But that's also kind of what drove it further as well. But yeah, it started out as a hobby, and then COVID came around, and due to certain circumstances, it kind of evolved into a business. So we've pretty much just taken it from there.
So what all can you do? Like I know you said you have a lot of machines. You have a bunch of machines.
Yes, I have 12, I believe.
12. And do they all vary from like different? What was it, the micron, or I'm not very familiar with too much of the terminology, but
I started off with the more economical ones,
the maker bots and stuff, and
the Crealities, like the one we have over in the booth right now.
Okay.
And then we moved up to bigger and better and faster and more accurate and less involved. So they have more sensors on them so that you don't have to sit there and level beds or pay attention to it. You just let it go like an industrial machine should do.
Okay. And so are you exclusively still using like PLA Plus, or have you moved into any of the more exotic?
If I'm doing rapid prototyping, I'm going to use PLA, of course, but
fast and cheap,
nylons, polycarbonates, carbon fiber fill. I use pretty much about any kind that is on the market right now.
Okay. Well, I mean, what are some other things that you can print? Like, what things do you print now?
Well, I've got my magazine holders, and that's doing all right. A lot of custom stuff I do is for like charge controller covers for EcoEthic, for their Sun Sabers. Pretty much anything, as long as it's within the realm of the materials.
Okay. Now, do you can like say I want something printed? Can I contact you and you can quote me? Hey, this is how much it's going to cost.
Yeah,
I send you the file and then you do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you send me a file and I don't have to design anything, then it'll be a lot cheaper because the materials and time aren't near as expensive as the labor designing everything.
Right.
But
Okay.
If it's something that's custom, that there needs to be a lot of intricate measurements and things like that, then it can get a little bit more expensive. But usually we do fair on pricing.
Yeah. Okay.
As competitive as possible, anyway.
I mean, that's good to know because there's some companies. I know this was a couple years ago. I remember talking to a guy about 3D printing, and I asked him. I said, "Do you print?" And he goes, "Nah." He goes, "We won't print for anybody, but they don't accept." I mean, but you got to think about viruses or whatever like that because you are accepting an unknown file in a way. So you got to be careful. I understand that, but you accepting, saying, "Hey, we'll do this." I mean, that opens you up to just more business.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's smart.
Well, it's perfect for rapid prototyping. So if you have an idea that, say, you wanted to mass produce through injection molding, the first process would be to actually make something that works. And 3D printing is perfect for that because you don't have to spend $20,000 to $50,000 to make a mold and have it injection molded and then figure out, this could have been done better. You can do that on the fly and just make sure that everything is how you want it, and then spend the money.
Yeah, and the applications for 3D printing really are, I mean, just in the short time I've been aware of it as a thing. Yeah, I've seen it progress from making basically like little tchotchke toys to, like you said, being used for rapid prototyping in the automotive industry, the firearms industry, and all these. It's like, like what we're really talking about here isn't something super esoteric. It's additive manufacturing instead of subtractive manufacturing. But I think for anyone that isn't isn't a machinist or isn't in manufacturing, I don't think they understand the capabilities that opens up. Because one of the things I was looking at recently was one of the more recent developments in 3D printing is they're starting to 3D print using metal injection suppressors.
Yes.
And the cool part about that to me, reading up on it, was, for all these years, they did all these computer models and said, well, if there was a way to physically machine a suppressor baffle to look like this, it'd be so much more efficient than our current designs.
Absolutely.
But the current designs are, even the ones that are money no object, you can't hollow out the center of a sphere. It's not possible. You got to have extra steps. But a lot of times it's this balance of we can make this thing say 2-3 more decibels quiet, but it's going to triple the cost because of the extra machining steps. Right. And then by bringing in, by bringing the realm of 3D printing together with actually being able to 3D print in metal, because you build this thing a slice at a time, they're able to build these very complex suppressor baffle designs that were not possible prior to 3D printing. And I think that's part of this that's so impressive to me, is that it's, there's such a thing as generational or incremental changes in any field, and then there's revolutionary changes. And I feel like additive manufacturing is that revolutionary change, because now there are ways to build things that could not be built with traditional machining technology. And now the question is, since we've had this jump in the machining and in the production, in the manufacturing, now we're seeing the other side, the design side, say, okay, I never included this in my design because it wasn't possible.
Right.
But now it is. Is that any better? And that's been the cool part about watching 3D printing technology mature and grow. And as more people think about the capabilities of it, we're seeing things that would have been Star Trek stuff 10 years ago.
Yeah, and what blows my mind is, it's not just for rapid prototyping anymore. It's for, you can make a finished product that's going to be just as durable as anything else. If you look in the medical field, they're able to print biological materials now as well.
Yep. 3D print prosthetics too.
Absolutely.
Well, I know.
It's just
sorry.
even housing and stuff. They're printing housing, so it's a multifaceted thing. And yes, it is basically the next industrial revolution for sure.
And that's the thing is so I used to work for a dental lab, and one of my buddies that works here, he still works for a dental lab, and that's what they're printing. They're printing partial dentures. So the frames and stuff that I used to go in at 2:00 in the morning and cast, do the cast machine that it was 70 years old, and it spins and it shoots it into the mold and all that stuff. Now you just load up the program, and they have it now to where I can't remember what the turnaround is, but they design it, scan it, or they'll scan the model, design it in the 3D program, shoot it off to, I can't remember where the shop is that they shoot it off to, Costa Rica or something. They 3D print it, throw it in the mail, and then send it back, and it's within a day or two, that they have it back. Their turnaround of it is crazy. And then they also have some of their own printers and stuff, so they actually do some stuff in house too. But it's crazy how far 3D printers have come, and the prices of them too. Because I know everything starts high, but now it's so every time it seems like every time a new machine comes out, new technology comes out, the other one just goes the price drops a little bit.
Yes.
So I guess before we wrap up and everything, my first question to you is, where do you see the technology going? Where do you see the industry going?
I see it as evolving more towards the individual consumer to make it more of a thankless thing. So you really won't have to learn how to program. You won't have to learn how to fix the machine. You won't really have to do any of that. You just select what you want and you pretty much make it. That's probably eventually where it's going to wind up someday. How long that takes is just dependent on how quick the technology is developed. But it's going to be able to do a lot of really interesting things in the future. I can see that. Just from the last 10 years, you went from just being able to barely make viable plastic products to now you're getting into organs and homes and multi-material pieces where it's incorporated circuitry into a body of some plastic or something like that, so you don't have to manufacture a board or anything like that. You just select, this is what I want, and it prints everything all in one.
Okay. Yeah, and then, so do you see, I guess another question I have on top of that is governmental regulations. Like, do you see the government really stepping in, because you can 3D, because the whole anti-gun agenda, you can print so much stuff that to a firearm, you can pretty much print an entire firearm, dang near.
Yes.
And, but, do you see any regulations on it at all, or is it basically, the signal's out there, they can't stop it?
Well, it's kind of like you can manufacture. It's perfectly legal to manufacture a firearm without any kind of regulation. But what I see is more of the internet side of it, being able to exchange the files or things of that nature, because you can go on and buy the file for a lower right now for an AR-15 and print it out. And it's basically what they call, I guess, a ghost gun. But I see more regulation on the side of where the files come from, and if you can actually exchange certain files, that's more or less where it's going to go. Kind of like how they're doing with all the social media right now, and just suppressing whatever they want to because they can. Yeah,
I almost see like the 3D printing technology. I almost see like that in a way, like crypto, like the kind of a hand-in-hand kind of thing, where crypto, like they're pissed at crypto because they can't really control it, and then I've been reading like they're pissed off at the 3D printing because they can't control it. So and we all know the government doesn't like what they can't control. If they don't like it if they can't control it. So it'll be interesting to see like what happens and stuff like that.
But usually when they step in and do that, there is an underground scene that always pops up and thrives during that. So
that's great. Honestly, if it's anything that can bring the people together if I can 3D print something so I don't have to go to the store, or I don't have to rely on somebody else, and I guess that kind of comes down to what it really has in common with preparedness is the ability that you don't want to rely on somebody else for something. You can do it yourself.
Yes.
So,
And I guess to kind of start wrapping up, like one of the things I see 3D printing really being from the user's perspective is diversified manufacturing.
Yes.
It's way more than, this new form of manufacturing came about and these 2 or 3 big companies, GM or Textron, have it. You can buy those things for a pretty reasonable amount of money and start cranking stuff out of your garage with a little bit of knowledge and know-how and upgrade over time. But it's this idea that it turns any prospective, like not even a homeowner, but any prospective person that has a little bit of space to set one up on a desk into a potential manufacturer. And it is simultaneously like, to quote the old saying, you can't stop the signal.
No.
It is simultaneously the greatest thorn in the side to gun control, because there is no way to stop it at this point.
That is correct.
And on top of that, I also see it as this amazing cottage industry that's coming up, because so many people, the cost of entry is so reasonable, and the knowledge is so prevalent and shared in the maker community that it is enabling people who probably couldn't afford to have a lathe and a 5-axis mill and all this other stuff to get into manufacturing in some capacity, limited only by their imagination, their ability to market it. It's an amazing opportunity for people who have the creativity and are willing to put in the time to actually bring something to market.
Absolutely.
But it's that idea of like diversifying things and not centralizing that really appeals to me. It's the ultimate way to insulate yourself from the system, the whatever, if you are not dependent upon it for the things you want.
Right. Yes.
It goes back to the old adage of like, to be able to buy is one thing, but to be able to make for yourself, for some people that means more just for the social aspect of it. Like, this is my own blood, sweat, and tears. But I always look at it as this is an opportunity to have one more way. I'm not dependent upon this machine for my own survival.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And economic survival, like you said, during COVID.
It did help, yes. But I look forward to seeing all the things that come about with it. And I'm sure that it's going to be, like you said, the thorn in the side. Plus, it's going to be able to help those who like to make stuff but can't afford the lathe, the CNC machine, all the it basically takes the place of an entire facility or a shop. You can just make it right there, all at once. And that's the intriguing thing for me, anyway.
So how do people get in touch with you if they want to know about this off-grid communication systems, or if they want to try to hire you out to do some 3D printing for them?
Well, you can check us out on our website, CD3D Creations.com. We have email list, we have products and all kinds of stuff that you can look at, and if you want to reach out for something that is custom, you can either send us a file of something you've made, or you can just give us some basic dimensions and we can figure it all out.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to leave the listeners and the watchers with?
God bless all.
Hallelujah. Well, we'll wrap this one up. It is noon. The sun is absolutely beating the back of my brains out, and my jackery is screaming sitting over here in the sun. So I think we're going to shut down and reposition a little bit. But got at least one more interview, I'm pretty sure, coming up this afternoon. 2. The list keeps growing. But I'm glad you stopped by, Cameron. I mean,
Well, thanks for having me.
I'm not into 3D printing, so to say. Like, I don't have a 3D printer at my house. But, like, I love technology, and I love to see innovation, no matter what guise it takes. And anything that enables, like, a person to do the work that they used to have to rely on a big corporation or a big machine for, that just tickles me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, matter of fact's heading out. We'll see y'all back in a little bit. Bye, guys.
See ya.
Later.